Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Mike, can you call roll?
Mr. Benford. Ms. Hogue.
Here.
Ms. Paoli. Mr. Sangillo. Mr. Seidel.
Here.
Mr. Vecchio.
Here.
Vice President Hogartle.
Here.
President Crooked.
Here. Stand for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, Mike, can you please read the public meeting statement?
Public notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act has been given by the Superintendent of Schools in the following manner. On January 15th, 2021, notice of this meeting was posted on the interior of the school administration offices, 1 Lincoln Avenue, Haddonfield. Written notice was submitted and filed with the Haddonfield Borough Clerk, and notices were faxed to the Courier Post and mailed to the Retrospect newspaper.
Okay, we're going to hop out of order a little bit on the agenda and go right to our PTA recognition, because you know there's field hockey games and practices to get to.
Can I help this too? And they said, because you're here, so you can help us with Central School. So, I need copies of where we stand because we don't have them state account. So we're spending a couple minutes, recognizing and thanking the PTAs from around the district. If you've ever heard me talk about what makes a good school system, it's three things. It's the staff and the teachers, it's the community, and it's the students. And our PTA represent our community and do it very well. If I were to start trying to list what they've done for us in the last forever, we'll be here tomorrow. We'll have missed all the Eagles games, all that good stuff, and once our field hockey games. But I can tell you that the smallest example of how wonderful this group is and how they work with the school to make things better for our students is last year with lunches. We were able to open to a full day school because the PTA got together with us and within a couple hours had hundreds and hundreds of volunteers lined up so we could have our lunches and have kids in school. No other districts were not to do that. Other districts couldn't figure it out. All we did is ask for help from our good friends in the PTA and schools were open. And it felt simple to me because all the hard work was done by the PTAs, but it's what made things work. And we really appreciate everything you do, the fundraising. I know the fashion show's coming up soon, all the fundraising. So a lot of good work. So we're going to go through, we have little certificates for everyone. So Sharon, why don't you just wait Central first? Why don't you take that?
So I just want to thank, I wasn't expecting to speak to that, but I will. I just want to thank our PTA. Ashley has been the PTA president for so many years. That's me. But Ashley and the entire executive team have just like worked tirelessly with our community, with our students, and she does an amazing job. She's incredibly easy to work with. We talk all hours of the day and evening, but I couldn't do it without her. So thank you for being my right-hand woman. And a big thank you to obviously Ashley. So come on out. Who is our treasurer, Ellen Duncan, who does membership for us, Colleen Haddon, who is co-president, or what's the term we use? President-elect. So Linda Lee, Allison Reinberg, Nina Shamus, Ashley, and Jacqueline Strait. So we have a really big executive committee, but an amazing group of people to work with. So I appreciate their support. I appreciate the support of all of our families. Our families really did pitch in. Chuck was not kidding. I think Ashley and I did it out, and it was like 450 slots to fill for lunch last year. But that is the tip of the iceberg. Everything else they do is just really amazing, and really puts the needs of our students and our school community first. So thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, we're going to do dealing with having PTA, which is kind of appropriate because Linda and I served on the PTA board together many years ago. We want to thank Libby O, Nicole Azara, Amy Goss, Katie Gorman, and Lauren Holzer.
Our group from Tatum, is any Tatum pizza? Come on, thanks. Janet Esselove, Kim Knapp, Rhea Morris, Julia Shane, Susan Schmidt, Cheryl Tardini, Jackie Tennyson, Lindsay Watts McCarthy, and Laura Jones. Thank you very much. Middle school, any middle school representative, come on, thank you. Miriam, hi Miriam.
Hi.
We have representing middle school, Jessica Arno, Miriam Vasquez, Sandy Mount, Sarah Kilkenny, Jen Sangilla, and Nancy Sullivan. And last but not least, the high school group, we stuck to this for a long time, to get through the whole system. I'm sure you know, it seems to be the same faces years and years, so you'll be seeing each other at the high school in a couple years. For the high school, we have Carolyn Foley, Julie Jelly, Leona McFadden, and Sheila Spell, and Larissa Wilson. Thank you very much, Larry. So Larissa was, when I was principal of Central School, Larissa was a PTA, was a PTA president then. So yes.
Even did not mention they could have been here, but they had to.
You know, this is my first time doing this. I realized that I tried to do it in the summer and everyone was gone. And then I tried to do it and I did it tonight because it's the first day we could finally go with work. And it's a work session, so now the principals are here, so it's a bad decision. And I was gonna move it, and I said, if I move it again, I'm gonna have a PTA now. I'll just throw that with you 3 times. Oh, but thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to back up on the agenda a little bit, go to the appointment of new board members. Can we ask, I'd like to first ask for a nomination to appoint a new board member for the Board of Education seat through January 1st, 2022.
I'd like to nominate Meg Hollingworth.
Okay, any other nominations? Mike, can you do a roll call vote?
Yes. Mr. Vecchio?
Yes.
Ms. Hogarth?
Yes.
Ms. Hoag?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Sidak?
Yes.
And President Cookie?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Haddonfield Board of Education. I'm really thrilled to be joining this esteemed group, and I'm really excited about the opportunity ahead to help shape and enhance an already fantastic school district. So thank you for the opportunity, and I'm ready to dive in.
Okay, next, I'd like to ask for nominations to appoint a board member for the Board of Education seat through January 1st, 2023. Do we have nominations?
I'd like to nominate Greg Essenplayer.
Okay, any other nominations? Mike, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Vice President Hogarth.
Yes.
Ms. Hoag.
Yes.
Ms. Paoli.
Yes.
Mr. Seidel.
Yes.
Mr. Vecchio.
Yes.
And President Brooks.
Yes.
I'll say I'm sorry for being a couple minutes late. I don't try to be so bad, but it'll be the last time I'm sorry, I hope. Very honored to be appointed. I really appreciate it. I look forward to serving the board, the school district, and the community, and look forward to good things going forward. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to,
Just our board members are appointed. Mr. Vecchio, this is be his last meeting as he's resigning, so we can get that in the minutes. For what happens now is we have background checks that are required. Once they're done, we can then swear the new board members in. We're hoping to have those done. They take roughly 2 weeks. We get it on tomorrow. We're hoping that 28th is the next board meeting. We can have them sworn in to the board. It also has to be noted that 31 people took time, applied, answered questions, went through an interview process because they cared about being on this board. And it was not an easy choice. I think anyone sitting at this table is going to tell you, we were here at I think it was after 11, we said, maybe we need a break and come back the next day. We'll come back later when the final deliberations were over. It was extremely difficult, wonderful candidates, a lot of good positive stuff. But a statement, as I talked about the community making a school district, a statement about how much this community cares about the school district. I was talking to other superintendents who've been doing this job for a long time. They haven't had 31 total over a career. And we got 31 in 1 month, right? So I think that says a lot about the town and a lot about it. And once again, it was a very, very challenging process because it was so many quality candidates.
I'd like to take a moment too to thank Tom, that I was going to do this for my report, but we're kind of in that, feels like it's a good time. But Tom, you're going to be a huge loss to the board. We appreciate so much that you've done, and for me personally, you've been someone that I can talk to and help me through, decisions and debating when, things have been difficult. I love that you brought such a measured, thoughtful response to a lot of the contentious and difficult issues that we've faced. And I really appreciate your, having been here preceding me and being someone that I could always rely on to help me learn how to be a good board member. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm going to save this, but so that it's in the minutes, I am now officially resigning. I just wanted to say a couple things because I think I owe some things to folks. I wanted to thank 2/3 of my family members. The other couldn't make it today, for their support and listening to me, and saying sometimes, Dad, I agree with you, even though maybe they weren't listening or didn't agree with me. I wanted to thank Chuck and his entire team. I said it in emails to this group, but I want to say publicly that I have the utmost confidence in the direction that you're taking the district, and it certainly was a factor in my decision. I want to thank everyone who supported the board, everyone in the community who supported the board, who supported me, supported my campaigns. You know who you are. They frequently say that board service is a thankless job, and I don't think that's true. I get lots of thank yous. Is it stressful? Certainly. Time consuming? Yes. Worth it? Without question. The time that I've spent with you has been some of the most meaningful and impactful of my life. And I encourage people to do this. It's true public service, right? There's no salary. There's no speaking tour. There's no nighttime talk shows. It's just you helping. And it's a great way to influence. And good luck to both of you and to our other 2 new members coming on next year. thank you to you guys for your service. I'm now in your gratitude as a member of the community. And as I've said, at your disposal for anything that I can do to help. All right, only two more. Jamie, you're going to be great. The board and the district are in good hands, and I know you will lead this post better than how you found it. And finally, he told me he might watch. To my good friend, Adam, who unfortunately is not here with us today, he convinced me to go on this journey, and I'm thankful to him for that. But I'm all the more thankful for the friendship we have forged and for the service you have provided to this district. That service should not and will not be forgotten by me, anyone on this board, or this town. You should know that you are a good man. Thank you.
You want to go into
Sound good?
calendars?
I'm gonna talk about the calendar.
Am I resigned, Chuck?
You are resigned.
All right.
I'm
I'll go have it with the public. They don't know.
I'm gonna stand up and do this because I think I speak better when I'm standing and moving. It might not be true. I might be tricking myself, but that's how I feel. Right, that's how I feel. So that's what I'm. So I'm here tonight to talk about calendars for next year, and maybe even the year after. And I want to have a discussion about it and talk about maybe some things we might want to look at a little bit differently. I'm going to first look at what I'm calling the traditional model. What we do use with our calendar is you take this year's calendar and you take next year's dates and you just plop it on top of it and move forward like that. That's what we do. But we've had a lot of discussion with this board over the last couple of years about not doing things the same way just because we've done them that way, right? We're talking about changing schedules because the education system is built on a factory model. And all that, we're talking all those clever things. Well, here's something else maybe you should look at. Our calendar is a Gregorian calendar, right? Our school calendar is built so you could work before. It's antiquated calendars to a certain degree. Now, we have 180 days. We have all those things. But maybe it's time to look at it and say, tweak it, not blow it up, not go crazy, but tweak maybe some of the things we do and for some reason why. So I'm going to go through and give some of those. So if we were to, and this will be posted on the website so you can see more clearly, it's not as pretty as it would normally be because I did this and Chanel didn't do it. She's much better at this than I am. So I fumbled through this. This is what our traditional calendar would be next year if we were to do this. If we were to come in, just move it over. The new teacher orientation would be August 29th. First day for teachers would be on the 1st. And then school would start on the 6th. Half day, 6th, 7th. We would get out June 22nd or 23rd, depending on middle or high school or middle high or elementary. That's what we would have done. That's what we may do. So maybe that way. I'm just talking about options. This would be fine. This would be fine. But there's some things we have to realize about what we're up against. I mean, we value a lot of things in our district. We have our strategic plan goals. But one of the things that we value a lot, even though we don't necessarily always talk about it, we do talk about it. We try to pretend we don't value it this much, is our scores, is our ranking. Those things do matter to us. Where our kids go to college, it does matter to us, right? It is important to us. And we can say it out loud, although sometimes I think we try to shy away from that because we think that's not always a good thing because we might be de-emphasizing some of the other things we value. It doesn't have to be that way. It can be both. And when you talk about some of these things, I'm talking about maybe shifting and having school start before Labor Day, and in fact, going into August to start school. And I'm talking about this shift for a couple of reasons. We want to try to get instructional time shifted from June to the beginning of the school year, and ways to do it. All right. We've started before Labor Day before, but never in August. All right. I want to add instructional. I'm going to show you two models. One we would start school on August 29th for kids. One we would start at 22nd, which is pretty radical. That's a real big jump. I'm not going to recommend doing that right now if that's too much of a jump, but I think it's something we should discuss for the future. and some of the reason I want to shift this is we are in competition, right? We don't like to think that we're a school district, but we are. If we're talking rankings and scores, we're talking competition. We start after Labor Day. Other states start a month before us, and we take AP tests the same day they do. They have a month jump on us for completing curriculum. They have a month jump on us for these things. NJSLA scoring. Everyone in the state of New Jersey takes at the same time. We are 2 weeks to 3 weeks behind schools in Central and North Jersey who have already shifted their calendars early because they're trying to get that time in before this testing. You hear teachers talk about, well, we didn't do well in this part of NJSLA because we didn't get to that part of the curriculum yet. So we're trying to look at doing this. It's 4 days. It's maybe nothing, but it is something, right? So I think that's important to shift that. SAT, PSAT testing. The first testing date for SAT next year is August 29th. The next one is early October. Those dates are coming up quickly, so we can get kids in school in the thought process. And this is a big one. The early action, early decision test application dates, they're creeping forward. We have the Christmas creep with the Halloween. We already put our Thanksgiving decorations coming on next week. Everything's creeping forward. So are application deadline dates. Some are as early as October 15th. If we're not getting into school until the second week of September, that's 4 weeks for some of our higher achieving students looking to get these applications done. That's quick. You bump it back and we come in August, we're buying more time for those students to go through that process. And when I talk about schools up in North Jersey, West Morris, the Chathams, schools like us are doing this. And the one thing, the feedback they've gotten is the college application process. The kids are in school with their teachers, with their counselors, and that time buys them a lot. So even though there's only 4 days, or if we go radical to 9 days, which the West Morris and the Chathams, they're starting on the 22nd next year. They're starting that early. Even though it's only a few days, it's actually time because there's weekends built in for that part of it as well. But so there is time built into this. We earlier ending in June, we're on that ending in the 4th week of June sometimes, which is not ideal. And the other factor too that comes into play, many of our families, I'm going to say most, but many of our families are already back from vacations in August. Looking at high school athletics, youth athletics, there's over 1,300 kids were involved in youth athletics and high school athletics before Labor Day last year. So most of our families, we have 2,700 kids, that's half of our family, they're already back in town for Labor Day. They're here, they're practicing, they're doing those things. So will it affect some vacation? It will. It would do that in the future. But that's one of those things that not everyone, we'd like to think everyone's away, but not everyone's away. Arguments to keep it the way it is, well, summer vacations, and that's the way we've done it. And that's how I look at this. I try to look at this as an exercise of what can we throw around? What can we think about? How can we kick this around and get some benefits? So to that end, I first put together a calendar that this would be starting on August 29th. So we have new teacher orientation the week before, first day for teachers on the 25th. The reason I did the first day for teachers on the 25th with an off on Friday, which looks weird, coming for a Thursday, that makes no sense. This year we had it where the teachers were on a Thursday, off on Friday, and the kids weren't there the next day. Unbelievably ongoing feedback from the teachers. First day of teachers and the kids the next day, a lot of stress, right? You can't leave until everything's perfect and everything's done. If you have it on Thursday and someone needs to come back the next day, they can come back for a couple hours and finish up what they need to do. It was one of those things where you got a lot of positive feedback. It was accidental. I didn't plan it. I don't think anyone planned it, but it got a lot of positive feedback. So that's why I'm recommending pushing those days the week before. The end date here would be June 15th for the high school, 16th for elementary, which is the 3rd week. That's where we like to try to end a sweet spot for ending a school year. So that falls into there. The next model would be early start. This would be the 22nd, ending on the 8th and 9th. And if you look at this chart, this shows you the middles are the same. The middles don't change, no matter what model you use. So this is where you can start seeing how it would look different in August, September, and June. And you can see the differences in these, right? And what it is simply we're moving things forward a week ahead of time. What I would recommend, right? I don't want to look at the November days. So there's other ways to shift instruction, right? That's the point of this. We could go like some schools do to a 4-day spring break, Friday, Monday, right? You can like on our calendar next year. I think the first is a Sunday. We could be in on the second, but I have us taking off on the second for New Year's Day. The November days, we could delimit those November days. There's other ways to shift instruction forward. I don't think they're the answers for us right now. I don't think that. I think those November days are crucial and valuable and help establish who we are as a learning environment where our teachers learning. I think that spring break, those months are long for everyone. I think if you drop that down to 4 days like some schools do, I don't think that would benefit us in the long run. I want to go out now and gather feedback. I've shared this with the HEA leadership. They're going to share with their people. I'm going to have principals share this with PTAs and get feedback from there, hear what people have to say about it. I would like to look at moving forward with Calendar B. And the other thing I think we should look at doing is approving 2 years out from now on. So this year we would look at approving 22, 23, and 23, 24. And maybe part of that discussion for 23, 24 is, do we try to move 1 week early next year and 2 weeks the year beyond that? That's a discussion we have to have, right? So a lot of this is contingent on feedback from people. You know, the HEA, I talked to the leadership there. They're open to talk about this and discuss it, right? We have a good working relationship with them. The part there right now is, I'll talk about it later. Rough year right now, and we get out of school, I think, the 23rd of June. So next summer, if we go this model, it'll be a short summer. But the summer after that, we'll have extended back to what we used to feeling. So they're the type of things I want to do next. Ultimately, I would love to see the earlier, the 2 week early start eventually. I would not recommend it this year. Like I said, maybe that's a 2 year away. Maybe we go 2 years. Maybe we do 2 years where we just go the week before, like this calendar, and we see how it feels. We try it on for size and say, okay, make the move then. I mean, this is something we can work on. But I want to say that I would like to see it started before Labor Day, regardless. And if we're going to do 2 year calendars, let's look at 2 years before Labor Day, or maybe consider that next one. I'm actually meeting with the superintendent from the Chathams again, who has this model in place about some of the positive things he sees in it, because he's very pleased with it. This would be what 2023, 24 would look like if we were to go the 2 weeks earlier. You'd be starting on August 24th or 21st and ending on June 6th and 7th it is. But that's just 2 years away from it to go that model. As I said, now's time I'm going to put out for feedback. We'll bring the feedback back to the next curriculum committee. We'll make adjustments as we see fit. And then maybe look to approve calendars, if not in November, maybe in the December meeting. So that's the discussion I want to have. That calendars open it up. And now I'd be more than happy to answer any questions or hear any thoughts from anyone.
Jump in.
Go ahead.
Why do all the schools have to have the same calendar to start and end? Is there a law?
No. One of the constraints is the HA contract, right? We have to work with them on dates. But there's no law. It just has to be 180 days.
And from a contract standpoint, a high school teacher and a middle school teacher at 183 days or whatever.
186.
186. The start and the end, do you have a lot of overlap where you have middle school, other than like music or stuff?
The only day, you mean the schools in the district?
Yeah, in the district.
So you're thinking maybe move the high school to a different calendar that starts 2 weeks earlier and the elementary is where they are now.
Well, not necessarily where they are now, but
Or.
because there's a lot of value in that.
I would think that the bigger challenge would be families, that you have multiple calendars going on. I also think that we do have staff that's shared, right? So we have staff who goes between
Sure.
districts. So they
language
teachers, some specialists go between, which would make it difficult. There's a lot of things I think you would really see where the trouble is with that when you're there, right? When you try to make it work and all just say, we didn't anticipate this third level tier trickiness. Interestingly enough, West Morris is a regional high school that serves 3 other elementary districts. When they went to it, the elementaries did not go to it at first, but within 2 years, they all shifted over to it.
Yeah, and I was going to mention that too. So the Chathams, West Mars, most of the schools that you mentioned are 9 to 12 regionals.
Right.
You know, not
Yeah,
K to
Chad's
12.
K-12, but West Morris is a 9 to 12, but the elementary schools in their district have aligned with their calendar.
They have. So I'll share, so Chuck in what, July, was it? Maybe the end of June, he came out of me and said, what do you think about starting this year early? And we said, no way. But not because it wasn't a right or wrong thing, but it was because there's not enough time for people to absorb a shift like that. So that was our advice to him at the time. Not that it wasn't a right or a wrong answer, just it was too short of a time to absorb it. One of the things I really like what I just heard is approving 2 years worth of calendars. The tough part, I sat today looking to say, okay, so when is the 23 New Jersey State Convention? Because this year it's not aligned with the election cycle.
It is not, and it's not in 23 either. So in 23, in 23, our November days will be 2 October days, a November day, and the convention is, I think, 1st and 2nd of November 23.
So it just makes me, from a resource, making sure you have police presence in Lizzie Haddon during the elections. We do that. We've been always lucky that the general elections mostly fall during the,
We have police near, we can't have police at poll sites anymore, but
they'll be in the door, so we get a resource officer on the other side.
can't have police in uniform at election.
They're not, they're in the school. They're on the other side of the door. I mean, we did do it the one time.
I know, but okay, I know.
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk about
So,
that.
yeah, so that would be one thing I would be cautioned. When I first got on the board, I was one of those, what the hell are we doing 5 days in November? And it took 3 years. And Mike Wilson every year saying, Dave, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this, to really convert me to the value of the November break. Because it's enough time to really know your kids, but still saves enough time to actually make adjustments and fix them. Fix the individual, the individual learning plans of these students.
I'm sorry.
No, so he convinced me of comfort. I think from a district, when I talk to the public and people still come and say, what about the November break? Nobody else does it. And I said, but nobody else gets our results. Did you ever think that that's part of the reason that we get the results? So I think your thinking is right. The November is sacrosanct.
I think also, to say, like, to Chuck's point, that's too late anyway. Like, I agree with you, these are enough changes that we need to stay focused on the front of the end of the school year, because messing with any of the other breaks aren't going to accomplish anything that we're trying to accomplish, which is better prepare students for those earlier testing, or specifically the AP test and the college applications, which is really important.
Yeah, exactly. So and if you were to just look at pure instruction for testing, to take those November days and move them to September before school, which some schools do, about 5 PD days before school opens. As a former teacher, I'm not focused on PD those first 5 days. And the best people probably could be focused. You're getting your room ready. You're excited to see the kids. All those things, as Dave pointed out, you don't know the kids, and being able to get the PD and try to transfer that in to use. It's not as functional as I think the timing of this. It used to be in February, if you remember, long time ago. It was a ski week. The timing of it is much better in that the teachers are still, they've got to know the kids. It is a break, but it's also an exciting break because they're getting to experience something new and different. And I think the timing of it is just about the sweet spot. I would not want to move those days. I think they're right where they need to be.
So, Chuck, I have to admit that I have tried to look at this from all different sides, and hearing you present this, you make a very compelling argument. And I actually have been on many sides of this. One thing you talk about is vacations, and yes, that would be an issue. But if you jump a little bit before that, so for the people who work and there's like camps and that kind of stuff during the summer, the fact is the last 2 weeks of August, camps usually stop because many schools go back. So parents are scrambling for childcare. during those last couple of weeks. So I was way on that end. I had kids in elementary school when we did go back before Labor Day. And I can remember feeling as an elementary school parent, like, why in the world would we go back? Why would we ruin our summer? Why do we need to go back before Labor Day? And now, fast forward, because I have a child at this moment who is going to be dealing with taking AP tests when everybody else has started before her. And we right now, like, oh my gosh, November 1st is like here, and it's all going very fast. So, you know, there's many, many sides to this. I am certain that for the elementary school parents, they're gonna feel the way that I did when I didn't have the older children, like, why would we do it? But ultimately, we're preparing our kids to get all the way through to the end, and college is the end game here. And I think that if parents understand why, and again, you made a very compelling argument, I think the important part is communicating the why, and it's hard to see when you're not yet in that place, but it's difficult.
I'm not a Jersey Shore guy, so I don't know how long in advance you do your house. I mean, both years in advance, so that doesn't work for me. But yeah, I mean, we would be breaking a tradition, right? I mean, even because we asked her before Labor Day, but never in August. So that's it. So to try to move this calendar earlier, you would just get one day and then come and then go for a 40 weekend, which makes no sense. But I think the whys are important, and I think that like I said, when I meet with the gentlemen again and we talk, do some more talk, they love it. By the way, they're really happy with us there. Anyway.
Well,
May I
tradition,
just-
oh, sorry.
I just want to add something about the vacation. I mean, I understand it if you're a family and all your kids are little in elementary school, you're like, oh, I'm losing vacation. But if you have kids of different ages, so I at one point had elementary, middle, and high school, and we had to be back by August 15th for the high school student to start sports. That's not everyone, but that's, would you say 1,300 kids?
1,300 kids are playing sports.
And then, once you have a child in college, they traditionally start much earlier than our school year too. So if you want to sync your family schedules, it makes sense to.
And the NGA side, that's sports, it's also activities, it's also band, cheerleading, there's other activities.
Right.
So the NJSA it has a down week, and that happens to be the second week in August now. So most sporting teams, that's their down week, and then they are by the third week in August, up and running with practice start.
I think next year, the latest a sport starts is August 22nd. That's the latest some start earlier.
I just wanted to say, I am absolutely on board with it. I think it's very smart. My only concern is just that, that we have enough time to hear back from the public. There may be, and I think Linda's right, we have to explain to them. I think most people would understand why. But, they may articulate things that, we didn't consider, or they may lay something more heavily than we recognize the importance of it. So for me, it's just really a question of, getting their feedback on time. Are there any, I know you said that you were hoping to approve next year's calendars in November, December at the latest. Other than making it convenient for people to know when next year's going to start, are there any deadlines where we have to approve it by?
The only reason why I was trying to go that early, and this easily go to, years ago, we didn't approve it until spring. Because if we are going to move things forward, if people are planning vacations, I want them to have that heads up. That would be the only reason I would try to push it for it earlier. We can absolutely put this off until January or February and keep that
I think it's better
conversation
to
going.
be earlier. I just
Right.
wanted to know if
Yeah.
there was a date. And the only other thing that I just throw out there for consideration, I think it's fantastic. What we've always done is float it through the PTAs and share it with the HEA. Just because it is a somewhat bigger change, I don't know if you want to include it in a,
This would be my newsletter.
last, perfect.
Yeah, this is October. This is my seal. We're thinking exactly the same, but yeah.
All right.
It's part of my October spiel.
And it's now been said out loud, so people are now on notice.
And I have informally talked to people in hallways and stuff like that, and it seems to have positive feedback. I know that everyone has, known as a self-interest. That's wrong saying, but it's along those lines. You talk to an AP teacher out there, they're excited about it, right? You talk to other people, they're not as excited. Our gym here is not air conditioned, right? So starting earlier for phys ed is not as appealing as starting earlier for an AP Euro teacher who now gets an extra time to get through the content. So there's going to be different feedback. There are teachers who have the same summer job and have had it for 25 years, and this is going to be an issue. There'll be an issue for them, and so that's something we have to really work with the HEA to see how they feel about that. Well, we're not dismissive of those factors. Most teachers work in the summer, and so that's another factor we have to talk about when we talk to the HEA about these things.
Yeah, I think this is one of those decisions that is, and everyone's expressing, because there's so many valid points when it comes to discussing a calendar. And I think it's important that, I hope like if somebody's watching this and someone's feeling conflicted or you're having a conversation, do encourage people to come back and watch this recording, because it does give a lot of reasoning that I think I know that when I had elementary school kids, and we have an ice cream parlor in Wildwood, so I think, what? But I can understand, like I think this is one of those decisions that becomes a very community-oriented decision where we have to really weigh the pros and cons for the whole.
Right.
And I think so that's something where, and I think that's to Heather's point where getting the weigh in, and as you said, like you're sending this out. And I think those are all the right things to do as we move forward. And I do just want to point out, we do get more, like ultimately when this is all said and done, we get the back end for June.
Right.
Which I feel like, because, I like to travel in June as opposed to August.
The other thing that I thought about too is, you think about what actually goes on at the end of June. And so if we're truly looking at this from an educational and not vacation perspective, my guess is that we're going to get a little bit better education, even for those younger students, taking AP out of the mix there, that by the time that you hit the beginning of June, mid-June, everything's on autopilot. So if you're front loading that, those are going to be, I think, more valuable days than on the back end.
We would hope.
But I want my kids back in school by the end of August. But as somebody who sits here and my children go to private Catholic high school and they're starting school the third week of August, I never even thought of it. It's just, okay, that's the schedule and you schedule life around it. But they're more ready for the AP classes because they've had a couple more weeks with it. It's not that they're ready, they're finished and they're reviewing before the exam. It's not like learning till the last day, cramming it in and then taking the test and calling it, and calling it a day like that. But then there is that value of the end of the year that you just don't feel the waste. This is just my experience, but there's no waste at the end of the year. You have exams and you're gone. There's no punching the clock to get to 180. You've already gotten to 180.
I also think we're talking AP, which is important, but I also, the NJSLA is another area. So I try not to be a person who makes decisions based on that's argument. The AP and the college applications are things that stayed out of my mind. But the NJSLA is there too. That's every student, right? That's everyone. And it'll benefit everyone, that piece too. So I to your point, back to communication, Dr. Maloshe and Cherry Hill put out videos of things all the time. So I've been toying with my first superintendent video to the community, and I'm thinking this might be the time to do it. Because I think I might be able to speak what I'm trying to say better than write. That is a terrible sentence, which would make you lose all faith in my ability. But I think I might communicate it verbally better than through written, try to explain it. So I think this might be my first try at that.
I think you made a very compelling argument for why you're doing it. And you hear your passion and why you're doing this. Not, there's reasoning behind it. I think this would be a great reason.
I think I'm going to start working on that. What is TikTok camera?
One of the students edited us.
chroma cube so you can light yourself very well. Ask John to get you.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on now to, board committee comments and committee reports. First, which is me for curriculum committee. For the curriculum committee, we talked about the dual credit program. So there's, we've been in communication with Camden County College, and there are a series of courses that students will be able to apply for Camden County College credit for. And those applications won't be due until March, and the process is moving, so everyone will be informed of the classes that are eligible and the process for that. And that will officially, they'll be applying in March. But it's a great opportunity for students to be earning community college credit for courses that they're just normally taking in high school. We talked about the math committee, which right now we're in the deciding about our evidence collection. So we are piloting, as we talked a little bit about this, we're piloting several new programs for our new curriculum for math. And part of that involves then gathering the evidence from the piloting to determine which is really most effective and which is kind of reaching our targets. And our targets are also something that becomes part of this goal setting evidence collection process. We talked about the ruler scope and sequence. The ruler is our SEL curriculum for people who aren't aware, and that's continuing to be rolled out. We had some curriculum updates for some health classes, adding things official, like for curriculum such as abstinence, dating, violence, and breast self-examination. And also there were some additions to the contemporary novels course. For professional development, we're constantly, one thing, there's always really conscious, deliberate thought about the professional development of teachers, both on the part of our teachers and our administrators, and really coming to develop programs, whether it's teacher directed or we actually have there's a social studies field trip that some of the teachers are doing. But there's a lot of deliberate thought that goes into those. And so making sure that that November professional development is really, we can make the most of it. We talked about, there's the Teacher of the Year, which I know has been, those nominations are open for that. That's been shared a lot, I know, on social media. And we talked about, again, the November PD week. And really, yeah, we talked about, some of the, for November Professional Development Week, there's lots of great options for teachers, some of them being SEL, student assistance, so talking about ACEs training and transitioning for students that had a leave of absence coming back to school. And a lot of talk of also articulation, which is articulating between grade levels, especially between the middle and the high school, and making sure that courses are aligned and that everyone is aware of what the preceding course is teaching and what the succeeding course is teaching, so that it's well articulated and our students aren't experiencing any gaps. Any questions?
Real quick, and I don't know if you know it or Colleen knows it, I don't need an exact date, but since you mentioned the piloting of the math program, approximately when are we going to be done? Because I know it's only one small chapter for each one. Will that be done by end of October or November? When are the pilots finished roundabout?
No, so the way it works is that each of the teacher teams are choosing a unit based on their data. So, they're either choosing a weak spot in the data and they're piloting then, or sometimes they're picking like what they're strongest with and they're piloting then. But the fact is that they're choosing as a team. So some people are piloting already, and then some people are going to be piloting like in 2 months' time. So it is going to be kind of spread out throughout the course of the year. Thank you.
Yeah, and I know this comes up a lot, but it's not like we're going to be teaching them anything wrong. It's just in a different style or with a different, maybe 1 or 2 different learning objectives than the rest. So I just hear a lot of apprehension when people talk about oh, we're doing different things. Different doesn't mean worse. Different just means we're trying to learn if there's a better way than we're knowing. But I think it needs to be said every time that it's talked about, that we're not losing. It's not like we're taking from anybody. It's not like a placebo effect versus the real drug. It's, it's different. They're going to be taught and they're going to be assessed on it. We're evaluating the teaching part. The assessment part will tell us if we were successful or not.
Right, and yeah, exactly, I agree. And we have our teachers, of course, our teachers are, so a program is not the curriculum, and I think a lot of people get that mixed up. So the program are the resources that you're using to teach it, and sometimes they really enhance what you're teaching. And, speaking from experience, sometimes you have a program that you feel is limiting, and you're adding in a lot of other materials, and it becomes like more, there's more room for, I don't know. I mean, it can be good or bad, but some programs are just more conducive to what your goals. And so that's really what they're doing. And so it doesn't take the teacher impact isn't to get removed. So teachers still have choice and have the ability to add in and supplement when they need. But I think and all of the programs we're piloting are top-notch programs. So it's not like they're all very high-level programs. It's just which is best for us.
If I could just interject, I have a great example that gets to what you're talking about, because I do think this is really, so I was in Allison Kennedy's class the other day, and she was piloting the Singapore math, I believe is the one that she was piloting. And she said, I changed it a little bit. I noticed that the kids were going to be working by themselves, so I decided to put the kids together for this one activity. So it's like the perfect example of how no matter what program we choose, there's always going to be the need for the teacher. It's the teacher professionalism that comes in, and that's what we're so excited about. Like, this is giving us an opportunity to really showcase how professional our teachers are, that they can, critically look at the program materials, and whatever it is, they're putting their expertise into how we carry those out. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk.
Thank you. Anything else? Justin, did you have finance and facilities?
We did. We had a brief meeting on Tuesday. The agenda was light. 3 items. The first was naming rights for the stadium press box. Second was the budget calendar for 2022-2023. And the final one was the monthly borough meeting. On the naming rights for the stadium press box, we didn't really get too far, other than to say that we need to think critically about how we go about that process of, awarding naming rights. What's important? Contributions to the district. Is money important as a part of that? Like, what are we trying to achieve, and how do we go about it? And so, we got to talk more about that. On the second item for the budget calendar, there's a process, right? The administrators speak to other administrators together with the principals. They get input in terms of what's important, what needs to be added to the budget. There's a whole calendar. It culminates with a presentation to the board in February. I think in February is the process where Mike can try to freeze the budget, right? It goes to the superintendent in April for approval, right? So there's this whole process, and there's finance committees, meetings baked around it. And so we talked a little bit about the calendar, making sure that the board has plenty of opportunity to weigh in. We talked about the intersections with the long-range facilities planning process, which we're going to hear more about. Is that later this month?
October 28th, right?
October 28th. So we're going to hear more about that. Obviously, that's an important one. That was that. And then on the borough meeting, we didn't talk about much. We talked about, of course, the swap. So there, I think, sorry, I don't have my notes with me. There, I believe there's an easement process. We talked a little bit about hoping that the timing there gets wrapped up soon, where that easement is granted, and hopefully we have the ability to close on this soon. I don't think we know anything precise, just like before. But we did talk about like planning. We have money, ready to be contributed towards, Cooley Hall. But yeah, no hard dates on when that's going to happen. But it felt like we were making some progress with the borough.
the state has 30 days to act on the easement, and it was submitted September 25th, so I think October 25th, they either act on it or it gets approved automatically.
Okay.
So we'll know much more October 25th. At that point in time, it's just a real estate settlement. It's just a settlement. We write them a check, they write us a check, we swap deeds, and then we walk over and figure, oh my God, we're gonna do this place.
But the easement's standing,
These things are
the easement's the only thing standing in the way, so once that gets resolved, we move forward.
we have to decide something. Do we just throw up a big fence around it right now?
Right.
I mean, we're going to invest money. We're going to invest money in this property that's simply to stabilize it, right? Keep it safe. People kids can't break into it. So it's going to be money we're not throwing it away because we're making it a safer place. But it's not going to be money that's going to move it forward usefully. Right? It's going to be money where the best thing might be just to fence the whole area. Don't like that idea, but it might be the easiest way to secure those buildings because the Cooley Hall is being broken into. Right? People are hanging out in Cooley Hall and happens. And I don't know how you stop it besides moving the access because plywood is not going to stop it. The borough's plywood, they're trying really hard to stop it. It's still not that easy. So.
Is Cooley Hall still gonna be demolished by the borough?
So, and they did say, I believe they said they were working on a date for that, or they had to wait, there was a process for that.
They had
So,
So they had to separate it from they have a bid for the demolition of the other areas. They had to separate this out because it has hazardous materials,
Yeah.
asbestos. So they had to do a separate bid for this. So they're doing the environmental study as part of the bid. So they're moving along with that, and they hope to have that bid out soon. And then that's a matter of timing for those pieces. But I think I've said it many times, and I think the guy who sat here before said it many times. I think we're close. This time I really think we're close. I think we're right there. Because it's now in the state's hand, and so that's where we are with that.
so for those just tuning in, Cooley Hall is the building, if you make the left after the high school, it's the large old school that has the horseshoe driveway. And and there's a couple of other buildings there, and which are all in equally, I mean, we're very excited to get them, but they're going to bring their own issues. But we're swapping, that's right now the boroughs, and we are swapping Radnor Field for that land because it's attached to the high school and there are buildings there. And so we're looking forward to that. So we're very excited.
Yeah. We get valuable land adjacent to
Our school. I mean,
And the district gets money in connection with Green Acre funds in connection with the swap to Radnor.
Right, the borough,
The borough.
yes,
Did I
yes,
say the district?
yeah,
Sorry.
but that's okay. So yeah, the borough will get Green Acre funds for getting the Radnor Field, and we get land that we can use to expand, which we're definitely going to need to do. So we're getting close on that. To give you a time frame, when I first joined the board, we were just starting we were having these conversations, so it's exciting.
It creates headaches, but also opens up possibilities.
Absolutely,
Ties in with
yeah.
our long-range
I mean,
facility planning and.
And it's been a good, it'll be good for everyone, for the whole community.
Yeah.
Okay,
One other comment real quick about the first part, the naming rights on the press box, when you continue those conversations, if individuals in the group decide that they are looking at monetary contributions in exchange, just make sure that you discuss what length of period of time that those naming rights would be valid for the dollar amount. We've discussed this in the past, and it was, the time period was something that had gotten overlooked, and we ended up not passing it, but it's a big deal, so it doesn't seem like it goes into perpetuity.
If I recall, that's it was a policy we talked about, and we kind of didn't come to an answer.
That's right. We
Is that right?
did not
Correct.
bring that policy forward.
I have to be honest, we go through so many that.
No, we did not because we disagreed on it.
Policy, you couldn't, so that's something we should probably.
maybe we should
move to the
relook
top
at
list and-
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, to not get on the high horse, this is a memorial school, and all of our naming has been memorial focused and not monetarily focused, but that could be the quicker in this. That we don't have that type of thing. The first thing when I heard, that's exciting that you're thinking about it, I think, Mr. Parsons' Perch, Bob's been the announcer forever, and that fits that model, but yeah, hey, you can also fundraise for that. There's no shame in that. But yes, so that is a policy we probably could take up in policy. It's just the last time we did it, we split as a board, so we didn't advance it.
And the only thing that I would say, I think it's important to discuss it in policy, but I think it also depends first if finance is gonna recommend that we look at it in exchange for donations, because if the answer is no, I don't know, I think that impacts the policy, whether or not, for me, certainly, for a contribution, I would want that time period to be shorter than if it was to honor somebody. That's a different story.
Yeah, I mean, Shell gas station versus the X, that makes perfect sense, yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like there's an order. Otherwise, our time and policy might be wasted discussing something that we're not ready to discuss.
Sure. Good point.
Okay, Lynn.
Policy. So we met last Thursday and we discussed the items on this month's agenda for first reading, including 3 updates to mandated policies and 4 new mandated policies. The updates were regarding policy 2422, which deals with the health and physical education. It was updated to include curriculum requirements of 6 recently approved New Jersey statutes relating to health and well-being of students. And those are sexual abuse awareness, diversity and inclusion, consent for physical contact, sexual activity, mental health, New Jersey Safe Haven Infant Protection Act, and the infusion of African-American accomplishments into the curriculum. We discussed policy 2467 regarding surrogate parents and resource family parents, and that was really updated to make some terminology changes. Foster parent was changed to resource family parent. And then policy 5111, the eligibility of resident, non-resident students, that has been updated. That policy addresses when a student's eligible to attend school in the district if their residency is outside of the district. And it also provides that the state will assume financial responsibility for tuition if a student attends the district while residing outside of the district for more than 1 year. We discussed the new mandated policies, policy 2425 regarding emergency virtual or remote instruction. And that provides that if a school district is required to close for more than 3 consecutive days due to a declared emergency, then 1 or more days of virtual instruction may count towards our 150-day in-school requirement. And then there were 3 mandated new policies regarding federal awards, funds, internal controls, and I'm sure Mike knows a whole lot more about these than the policy. But one was ensuring that costs meet general criteria in order to be allowable under federal awards. One requires that the Board of Ed, if it applies for a federal award, it must disclose all violations of federal criminal law involving gratuity violations. And the last one, the board must maintain written standards of conduct covering conflicts of interest and governing the actions of its employees engaged in the selection, award, and administration of contracts that are supported by a federal award. And they don't change any of our current practices. But those 3 are all mandated and new. So then we briefly reviewed the items on the agenda for a second reading this month. There were the 3 policies that were passed pursuant to the roadback plan last year that are now being abolished because they're obsolete. And the 2 mandatory policies pursuant to the road forward plan, which outlines Haddonfield's instructional plan this year and includes 2 mandatory orders, the mask mandate and the school or the staff vaccination and weekly testing. And finally, we reviewed 6 existing policies that we determined none of them required revisions, but we will next month again revisit a few policies that we initially discussed last month, and they deal with board self-evaluation, board committees, and board superintendent relations. We'll talk about those again next month as we have all these wonderful members.
Yeah, on that, the NJSBA virtual, what is it called? The virtual workshop is you sent out the agenda today. So I was excited for that because they have a lot about board governance and how to be a good board member and best practices. So I'm planning to go to those. So hopefully I'll have something of some kind of wisdom to add to the discussion. Any other questions for Lynn? Okay, PTA update. Were you gonna ask a question or were you?
No.
Oh, okay. Linda, I know you went to the middle school PTA, right?
Yes, so they talked about how, definitely a return to normalcy, their trips, penitentiary and the eighth grade trip is next week. They have a dance the night before the Fright Night dance here, at the high school, so very much, a return to normalcy, and everyone is very excited about that. They also talked about a PTA donation for the library, and I understand, Mike, that they talked to you about that as well. So there's furniture that they're buying, and one of my thoughts, concerns had to do with any monies that they were using for the library, knowing that we have, all of the planning that needs to happen for all the schools. But what they said is that they're very aware of that, and all of their updates are not only this furniture that's movable, nothing that's stationary, but everything neutral, so that whatever decisions are made in the future, that this money will be spent wisely and will work with what is up and down. So that was all good, and it seems like they were thinking really about stuff.
Great. Anyone else have any updates for PTO? Okay, Dr. Priola, do you have anything for the Assistant Superintendent's report?
I do. I have a brief update regarding Governor Murphy's Executive Order 253, which mandates school staff members to be fully vaccinated or submit to weekly testing once or twice a week. And in the state's infinite wisdom, the testing provider that they assign to us will not have testing operations up and ready for Monday, and without surprise, there is no flexibility on the extension of the mandate. So as a result, we have been working very hard to communicate plans to our unvaccinated staff members. Overall, approximately 90% of our school staff are fully vaccinated. That represents about 34 staff members. However, we do have approximately 20 contracted staff members that are also not fully vaccinated. And we also bear the responsibility to monitor their testing. So not only is it the record keeping and assembling all of our records to ensure accurate vaccination status of all of our employees, but it's how do we assist our staff in complying with the executive order and not being forced on an unpaid administrative leave for non-compliance with the executive order. So what we were able to do in the 11th hour, we solidified this connection today. We were able to put together a vaccination testing clinic for our staff in district that will be held in a location after school on Monday as an option for our unvaccinated staff. We're trying to make it as convenient for them as possible. Some may choose to go to a private testing site, and that's perfectly fine. They just have to provide us with the results, and that's something my office will track. So once we get past this hurdle and engage with our assigned vendor, that will essentially be phase one of this process, which will be to fill the requirements of Executive Order 253. The second phase will be to offer weekly testing or twice weekly testing for any staff member, vaccinated or unvaccinated, and any student that would like to be tested as part of our in-district testing program. Of course, that requires parental consent. That information will all be forthcoming. That will happen in phase two, which I anticipate happening within the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Who's paying for Monday's testing since the state vendor isn't able to?
We were able to work out a deal with a local pharmacy, same pharmacy that we do our vaccination clinics with, and there's no cost to the school district for providing the service.
That's wonderful. Are they gonna do it the following week if we don't have a state vendor, or is it ongoing?
If Monday goes swimmingly, then we will use that vendor until we are set up with the state appointed vendor. However, we are even keeping our eyes open that if we have a good thing going, we will explore the pros and cons of dropping out of the state program and going with what we set up.
Have either the state vendor or this one on Monday, have they promised a turnaround time?
24 hours.
Oh.
And it's a PCR test.
That's good.
Yeah, well, the connection we're able to make, the actual lab is in New Jersey. So it's as simple as a courier picking up the test samples and going, I think it's about an hour away. And we get those results within 24 hours. That's what's anticipated.
Is that a polling test or is
It's
that
not.
individual? Okay.
Individual PCR test.
And one other, I know you just said it, but you said it quickly with a lot of information.
Yeah, sorry.
Are they required right now by this executive order? Is it once weekly or twice weekly?
So it's up to twice weekly. So the in-district protocol that we currently have in place is that it will be one under current condition. If COVID numbers pick up, spread gets worse, we will go to twice a week.
If you can't find a carrier, I will drive.
Well, this is a much better plan, because the plan, contingency plan before was Chuck and I holding, we were going to, that was plan C.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Mr. Klaus?
I do, I have a brief, I will be brief today, I've already taken that. Weird, going. So tonight's report, I had, in essence, two things to talk about. Staffing and substitution challenges. I feel like people are gonna stop believing me. As I keep saying, no one's ever seen anything like this before, but we are now at a place where no one has seen anything like this before. People can't staff buildings. Like there's no one to hire. So we have upcoming leaves of absence for people, and we can't find staffing. There are currently school districts, neighboring districts, who have rooms without teachers, who are putting a different sub in every single day. Big school districts, Patterson is missing 150 or 160 teachers at this point in time, and there are no subs to be found. The fill rate for subs is below 50%. So when teachers are out, then we're filling in however we can. We are discussing upping our sub rates. We're now paying about $100 a day, roughly, 110. We're talking to the sub service. We're like, what if we go to 150? They said it doesn't matter. There's just no one there. So it is trying. We're fortunate every day. I thank goodness we don't have buses, because buses are crucial. Camden County Educational Services right now, who does a lot of busing for Camden, he's expecting to lose about 30% of his route in the next 6 weeks. It is really desperate. I think I told you before that Massachusetts called the National Guard out to drive school buses. It's really getting desperate. And it's challenging that we can't find these positions. As a matter of fact, nursing is another crucial one. We are up on the board agenda for today. We're going to up our sub-nursing pay to $225 a day, because what we're doing now is we're bidding against other schools for services, right? And so the people are throwing money at it. I feel coming that next summer is going to be open for teachers jumping school districts for salary raises, just done, because there's going to be, the shortage is getting bad. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening that way. But the biggest impact that I see, that I feel, and I wrote about it in my board update for tomorrow, it affects everyone. So when we can't find a sub, those kids don't sit in a room by themselves. Some teacher goes and covers for them. And so our teachers now, who already are in this place, and I've said before, we've all agreed, it's harder this year in a lot of ways. are all now being asked, and they're doing it because they're wonderful, to do even more. And it's really, really taxing on them. And you can see it in their faces, and you can see the face of the administration. It's sad, I guess is the word. I'm trying to find the right word. I'm not trying to overstate things. But we have people who are stressed, we have people who are anxious, and we have people who are afraid to call out sick now because they know there's no coverage, even though they probably should stay home and get better, right? Because they don't want to put their peers who have to cover their classes in this piece. It's really getting very, very difficult. And I feel for these teachers when I see what they're doing. I think I speak for all the administrators. I can see very quickly a scenario where I'm in classrooms and Gino's in classroom and Colin's classroom because they need the help. And it's easier for us to do it than the building principal. The principal can't stop the classroom, but we probably can. And I think we need to be aware of that. To that end, like we're exploring options of what we can take off teachers' plates right now. In addition to all these things that were added in back this year, as we try to, as Ms. Simkus put it perfectly, we're pretending it's normal, but it's not, right? We're trying to act like it's normal, but it's not, and it's putting so much stress on the staff. The state put all the evaluation requirements back in. So the last 2 years, they pulled back SGOs, they pulled back some things to give some relief to the teachers. They put them back in, and it's just too much. So we're going to explore, we're going to go through the fine-tooth comb and say, what can we pull off a teacher's plates to make it easier now? What can we do to take some pressure off of them? And it's not easy because most of the things we do, we're following the state guidelines. So that's something you're going to hear me talking about a lot. I wrote about it a little bit tomorrow in the board update, but it is something that's a challenge for everyone. Right now, I think I can speak for the central office administrator. Our number one goal has got to be to try to help the teachers out so they're morale, they can rebound a little morale. I hope that the give them some refreshment. But they're hardworking people. They're going to come in November and they're not going to kick back and relax and say, hey, no kids, take my shoes off and sit in the classroom. They're going to be working hard. And they're going to challenge themselves to try new and different things at that point in time, which is challenging, right? So you're going to read. I said tomorrow. I talked to Jamie about it today. I said, it's not the death of 1,000 cuts. It's like one long, slow, painful cut. You should almost stop. And I think that's where people are right now. It's really, really tough for people. So that's what I wanted to bring out for you.
Chuck, I'm sorry.
You go.
To add to that, things that we've all talked about before, that holds true for our administrative team.
Yeah, our administrative team,
And our principals. Talking about the sub-coverage, most of our principals spend the first 60 to 90 minutes of their day from the time they wake up and look at their phone until they come in the morning, rearranging schedules, pulling certified educational assistants that have a sub-certification into classrooms, mixing things around. It's almost daily. That's how they begin their day, every day.
Yeah, thanks.
I actually thought of it today because, and our administrative team here tonight, you are all in the same situation, right? Gino, I think we know you as our COVID guy, and that was not in your job description a year and a half ago. And I think it's a lot. And so we thank you for all the extra time and effort you've been putting into this at all. But it is, I think you're on the money in saying that it's definitely wearing on people.
And I'm sorry.
Okay, so I remember talking about this, and I know about it from the CCES, the shortage of bus drivers, custodians, and nurses. What caused, and obviously teachers are stressed now trying to make up for other teachers being out, but what was the driving factor behind the current teacher shortage?
I don't know. I really don't know. I know a lot of subs and bus drivers tend to be retired, who don't want to be in schools and buses during a pandemic. I think that's a big part of it. There are people who don't want to be vaccinated or tested and testing, and that's part of it. I don't have an answer for that. I really wish I did know. But I believe that the pipelines coming out of schools for educators is also less than it
It
was.
is less. Enrollment in educational programs is down. And from what I've read, teacher burnout is a significant issue right now. And so people are leaving the profession because it's hard.
So, and I don't know if you said this earlier, but like, do we have like a daily, weekly, or monthly, what I'll call substitution rate, like this week?
We have fill rates, right? We track them. Like, you know, the fill rate,
I mean, it's in the rates that you were saying earlier.
40%.
40%,
It's normally double that.
it's normally.
Like normally before.
In a normal year, over 80 to 90% coverage, right now about 40 to 45%.
Yeah, I was gonna, and I know that you have sent out, because we read so many communications, but I believe it was in the newsletter and asking people and encouraging people to get substitute certifications. And I wonder if PTAs wouldn't be another avenue to get that information out, just because sometimes people pay more attention to what the PTAs are saying.
I'll try.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I'm just wondering. if, like,
anyone who's listening,
right?
all 13 people listening.
No offense, but some of those newsletters are long, and then you're right.
I don't know if that answered your question though, Heather. Was your question around like how many
Yes.
open substitute? Because we said 40%, that could mean there's 2 openings.
So,
Always get me just.
on a given day,
How many people are out, and I don't need specific numbers, but
Right.
are we generally missing 10% on an average day, and now because of this going on, we're missing 30? I'm pulling numbers out of the air here.
I'll have to get back to you. If I guessed a number, I would probably wrong. And one of the things, if I'm picturing my attendance sheet I get every day in my head. Some of those are leave of absence, so that's quite the same thing. Some of those there are different reasons. I will get that now. I'll get the
And it maybe that feeds into a little bit of a shortage. Maybe people are taking potentially leave of absences or longer ones than they ordinarily would because of the pandemic, right? I mean.
And I know my mother-in-law is a sub, she's a retired teacher. She looks at it, she's like, for $100-something, and I'm older, sure I'm vaccinated, but do I really want to go with the mask in front of you? Like, no, it's not worth it, I don't know what would make it worthwhile.
The state has just reduced for emergency the number of credits required to be a sub down to 30 from 60, because they're trying to do that. They're also toying with the idea of, one of the challenges is you have retired teachers who won't come back because their pensions are in danger. If they come back and they work too long, the state is looking at waiving those types of things, putting requirements in that if you come back now, your pension won't be harmed. But that's a very, very big deal. If you come back to work for school, you lose your pension, right? So no one's risking that, right? So that would be a much harder thing to put in place. But it's not just Haddonfield, it's not just Camden County, it's not just New Jersey. This is right now a national piece, and it is. I'm going to say, we're frightening. I look at this right now, and it's a little scary.
Where do we typically source subs from? I'm like, is there anything we can do? Like, we have a preferred provider. Do you hit our fill rate percentage? We'll pay you more, or we have 3 or 4 standing by.
We do ESS is our service, and I think the way it works is the subs pick the jobs. So ESS doesn't say, oh, you're subbing today, go to Haddonfield.
Right.
If you open up your email and there's 35 sub jobs, you can pick them. And so that's why we thought if we up our salary, maybe people will jump, and we can try it, and we're going to talk about it. But the guy at the sub service from Microsoft said, it's not going to help, right? People who sub at school X tend to have a connection to school X, so that's where they go to sub. Very rare that people jump all over 10 different schools. Now, maybe if you up it and you go twice what other people are paying, they get motivated differently. But they're still, it's still a long shot. And the other thing, and to go back to Gino's point and about the building administrators and the teachers, like, it's going to sound like we're busy, but we kind of have it easy in that first hour grind is not. We don't experience that. That's a grind. When you get up in the morning, you're up at 5 o'clock in the morning, you see your list, and you know you're not covered. that's your day's road, right? You're 5 o'clock in the morning. And when you're the teacher who gets the email at 6:15 saying, I need you to cover this class, your day is thrown off, right? We are busy and we are doing things and it's difficult, but not that instantaneous morning till whatever grind trying to solve those problems. That's a really challenging thing that they go through every single day. And I anyone who's heard me talk about it, the building principal's job is easier than mine, right? It really is, because they're up and they're going and they've got like 15 minutes to fix things. Right now, my job, very little of what I have to do has to be done in the next 15 minutes. And I have days to do stuff usually. I have people to help me. When Miss Simpkins wakes up in the morning, she's missing people. She doesn't have people to help. She's got to get up and do it, and it's hard. And that's why, when I said everyone is really feeling it, and it's, hats off to them for pushing like they are. But I feel an obligation for us to try to figure something out to give back something, take something away from them, so they have at least one less thing to do during the course of a day or a week or whatever. And if we can find 3 things, we can. And I know, and what I'm starting to look at is things get added on, right? So we used to use X, now we do Y. Sometimes you add things when you don't take, you upgrade. So we used to do lesson plans this way, now we do it that way. But part of that old system's in place somehow. If we can cull those things out, right, and narrow that out a little bit, maybe take some of that pressure off. They're the type of things we're looking at.
Did you ever think, so sometimes you take a look at an old problem and you always start with an old solution. So we're competing on a daily rate for substitutes. And you already said that you already know that if you need the substitutes on Monday, you need substitutes on Tuesday, you need substitutes on Wednesday. You also said people don't like to hop around. Did you ever think about offering a week rate to say this, we need a sub for the week? We don't know what your assignment is Tuesday, but you're coming to the district.
So we have that. We have in place, each building is 2, right? 2 subs.
Yeah, but that's from a different contract. I'm talking about going back to the regular daily sourcers and say, I'm gonna offer a week position, not the long-term sub stuff.
No. So source, it's not,
ESS.
assigns, we have open spots. So you pick central school, you're in central school every single day this year.
That's from a year standpoint. And my point is, that we offer a week with a week rate that isn't, you're not going from 110 to 200, but you're going to 110 times 5 plus a kicker, so you're getting more. But the more isn't just money, the more is more consistency. They get comfortable that, hey, we're a district that really takes the mask seriously, that they get more comfortable that all the protocols they see, they get a sense of feeling. I work at a place where we still don't have everybody back. And every Monday, there's another department that they're back on campus for the first time. And I'm like, I've been on campus for months. But to see the newness and the fear, and then by the end of the week, that fear is gone, there's got to be a way that we can convince people that try to buy, not buy for in terms of full time, but that you're not just here one day and gone the next, that we're going to make a commitment and we might eat it. You might get a day where you're paying 2 subs for doing nothing because you didn't need to fill it. But that's a risk I think you're willing to take. And you're saying that'd be the greatest problem to have, right? So instead of thinking about it transactionally on a daily basis.
We can look at the week basis, because we do have we have people who are here every day for the year, and we can't even fill those, right? You can be guaranteed a sub at Tatum is missing. At Tatum every single day this year, and you get a higher rate too because you're building sub and still can't fill it.
But you know what, to piggyback off of what Dave said, a week, you might even then consider a month. Maybe people don't want to sub for an entire year, they just want income for a short period of time, but they don't like their district every single day. Like
We'll certainly explore. We're open for every opportunity that anyone's got, because I don't have the answers. I know there's smart people who do.
It sounds like there is not only a short-term problem, but you don't see this being a short-term problem.
I do not see the issue.
So I don't know if we can do this, but you talked about how the people in this community, jumped in to help. So is there something that we can do? Is there, if there's only 30 credits, can we help to, guide them? This is how to do it. Can there be some kind of tuition reimbursement? And that if they agree that they're going to, be available all through the next year, then at the end of that year, there would be tuition reimbursement. Like, are there things that we can do to encourage people? Look, if we get people from town, moms that are home, we're not going to have them, going from one place to another. We're going to have dedicated people who will be available to them.
One of the things, that's, I think we need to do that. And one of the areas I think we need to explore on that is college kids coming home. Right, they're gonna be home, some are home for a month in January, maybe in January we'll fill them up. Because now you don't have to be you don't have to finish your junior, just finish your freshman year, and you can be doing it, or I think it's 20. Most sophomore comes 20. And if you can reach out to those kids coming home, they're gonna have 30 days where they just get up and they come in, they sub, that might help for a little bit of time. And then in the end of the year, when colleges are over, they're done in May, it's another month and a half. But I think we do need to start trying to tap on resources.
And how do you gain loyalty? After 5, you get a kicker or whatever, you get an additional team or something to start to get people to, used to coming, and maybe they start getting used to it. I look forward to that. I don't know what it is, but all these incentives, I think we're all trying to say is, we've been hearing about this for years. It seems like a real stressful situation that's just getting worse. So we want to support you any way we can.
I appreciate it. Yeah, and like I said, we'll explore all those ideas. And if you have any more, we're driving home tonight or walking the dog or whatever.
The only thing I'm thinking of is I love the idea of targeting our graduates and thinking about where do they get their information from and sending out something in the having the alumni send something out.
We have all their, we can hit, we talked the Alumni Association, we have all the graduates in non-guns. We can go back 5 years and get students and so, hey, consider someone to come home for break. Here's your application, fill this out and we'll get started on something like that.
Could we have the subs do a small survey, like after you sub, what would incentivize you to come again? List a few things, get the feedback and see what we can do with that feedback.
That's a good idea. Okay.
Yeah, right, that's them what would. For the.
Why would you pick us, in the morning?
Yeah. All right, so COVID updates. There's our dashboard. You can see we have it's like 5 cases. 2 of those are coming off tomorrow, I think, right?
Anticipated, yes.
Anticipated coming off tomorrow. There's our latest Cali index. You look here, it's trending down a little bit. It's pretty stable throughout the last month. They are trending down slightly. Here's our threshold levels. And the upcoming presentations next 2 weeks now, we have the LFRP. I hope to get the state of ours together. I was going to try to have that in tonight, but I just wasn't able to get the people. There's a lot of moving pieces and they're busy. The fall dramas are going on in both places. So those directors like, really? Now you want me to stop and put a presentation? So we'll try to get that together. We're going to bring in the athletics, and then November 18th, that's probably going to change. We got an extension from CUSAC from the November date until December 30th. So we'll have our CUSAC self-assessment approved on the December 9th board meeting. Gino found that you couldn't ask for an extension, and he said, listen, here's what we're doing. We're doing this testing, we're doing this, we're doing that. We need the extension, and within an hour, we got back and said, hey, no worries. Take the extension.
State of New Jersey.
Our portrait of a learner, all of our materials came in, so we'll be able to present that, all the materials, the bookmarks, the posters, all those good things going on. I'm sorry to see it. And that is, how do I stop presenting now? And that's my report for today.
So can I ask one more question related to COVID? I believe I know the answer to this, but I don't want to make an assumption. When somebody has to quarantine a student for COVID, they're able to watch class remotely, even though it's not being taught the same way it was last year.
And Heather, the protocol for that is we require that to be set up by day 2 of notification, because quite often Those exclusions happen late in the evening, on weekends, and within the first of all, if we can do it within the first day, we do it. But we guarantee that within the first 24 hours, they have access to assignments and things that they missed. Like back in the day when you missed school, you got a note, this is what missed, your assignments. And then by the second day, you put your own instructions set up. But there have been many cases where we've been able to do that on the first day, no later than the second.
Great, so now recalling it, one follow-up with that though, if somebody has to stay at home a longer period of time for a non-COVID related thing, I think it was just last board meeting, we approved for in-house tutoring, which obviously is even better than the computer, but that's only for a couple of hours a month.
Mm-hmm.
Are those individuals who are at home because they have some sort of, whether it's an illness or physical,
Yeah, so
Are they
what you're referring
remotely
to is part of the New Jersey Administrative Code for home instruction due to a temporary or chronic illness. We are currently exploring whether the New Jersey Department of Education would accept virtual instruction in those circumstances. Right now, the code and policy are silent on that, and that's something we've been actively discussing.
And just because I don't want you to misunderstand what I was saying, I'm not suggesting that they should lose the in-person tutoring because there's a benefit to that.
No.
I just thought if we've already made so many gains with the technology last year with how to present that if somebody's at home with a broken leg because it's difficult to get through the schools, it's a shame to have them miss out on education that we already have the wherewithal to do.
Yeah, I'll even broaden that. So the discussions we're having administratively are ensuring that we have options available to be able to make a case-by-case decision on what approach is best for the particular student in his or her circumstances.
Thank you. Do you have anything else?
That's it.
Okay, I feel like I shared a lot tonight, so no board president report from me. We'll go on to public comments. So our public comments today is it's a working session, especially for newer appointees. For the working session, we'll do one open public comments period. And also we discuss all the policies and have this discussion. We still do presentations, but nothing is voted on. The next meeting on the 28th is when we'll take action. And that's the case for every month, aside from a few months when, like in the summer, we just have one meeting. December, I think we just have one meeting. So our open public comment sessions will now begin. Members of the community are invited to speak for no more than 3 minutes about agenda and non-agenda items at this time. If your 3 minutes is up, we invite you to get back in line if you'd like to make additional comments. This is an opportunity for the board to listen but not debate issues or enter a question and answer period. Please be aware that not all issues brought up before a board meeting will be resolved that evening. We ask you to state your name and street so that a designee can get back to you with a response if warranted. General responses to comments will be posted on the Board of Education website under the Resources tab where it says Open Public Comment Replies. While public education can be an emotional issue, we strive to maintain a certain level of decorum at the meeting. Public meetings are recorded and televised, and students often participate in the meetings. As such, citizens are expected to maintain a tone of courtesy and civility. So at this time, if anyone would like to make a public comment, you're welcome. Okay, anyone? Just respond. Something. Okay, seeing no comments, we'll move on to the review of the October 28th agenda. So, and again, I'm not going to read them all when we do the working session, but I will take time at each section. So any discussion on issues of governance? Okay, moving on to curriculum and special education.
I have two questions. So F is our resolution to approve the updated contemporary novels. I know Colleen shared in the curriculum meeting that the vanishing half is going to be added to in her presentation. It's not linked in this document, so can that just be updated for next week's vote?
Yeah.
Is that?
Try
yeah.
to do this.
Is that right?
That's
How
right.
should that be added, the vanishing?
I just emailed them just now to ask that. I just wasn't sure if it needed to be listed explicitly since it's part of it's a new novel as published.
Sorry?
Yeah, so I have it as the course contemporary novels is listed on the agenda, but the actual book that's been added to it is The Vanishing Half. Or The
So
Vanishing Half.
has the vanishing half been board approved as a piece of literature?
Not by itself. no.
That has to happen
Okay.
before it's included. So,
So like
You
the
have the paperwork for that on
document,
that?
yeah, the paperwork went before the curriculum committee, but the actual book's not listed on the agenda, so.
the book has been approved by the board.
At the curriculum, it was reviewed by the
No.
curriculum.
No, it has to be approved here.
Board. That's correct.
So, I'll work with you tomorrow. We'll get that on there for next week. We'll get the, link out to you guys. So,
Good catch, right?
Thank you. Yeah.
And then just one other, the H, the Red Trunk Project.
Yes,
So for 2 weeks, if you rented it for 2 weeks, it was $350 a trunk. Give it 6 weeks, it's $350 a trunk. We're doing it for 4 weeks and it's $650 a trunk. Is that just a typo?
I'll have to check.
Or is it a different kind? I just didn't know.
No, it's the same trunks. The trunk goes from school to school.
Yeah.
So the trunk is, I think this year is Mexico?
Yeah.
Mexico? Yeah. So in the trunk is a bunch of artifacts.
Yeah.
Songs, poems, artwork, storytelling. And it goes from school to school so that they can explore the culture. I will double check the price.
It just seemed
I
weird that
read it as being there was more than one trunk at the school, but I could.
I'll clarify
Yeah.
because I thought there was only one trunk.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, any, discussion on personnel? How about, business and finance recommendations?
And just so that I didn't miss it, we did not get the budget calendar yet.
Like it's not on here?
Well, it mentions that it is, but there's no attachment and it's not in the folder that I saw.
Oh, it should be, yeah, it should be linked to that. It'll be linked.
Yeah, the 28th folder was kind of a mess of the 7th and attachments. Yeah, it was, I couldn't.
It's a busy month.
What was it, 5 weeks in a row? Something like that?
I was saying that, I was texting Heather, I was, oh, we were.
Yeah, it was, next week will be
marathon.
the 5th week in a row.
Any other, discussion on business and finance? Okay, and discussion on the minutes that we're approving? All of them, yeah. It has been a lot of meetings, and all the executive sessions. So it's been busy.
There was a meeting today and one of the superintendents had to leave because his board meeting started at 1:30 in the afternoon. How awesome is that? Not in Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Okay, items for future consideration by the board. Anything? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn? Motion.
Second.
Linda, Dave?
Everyone?
Yes,
Anybody